The most important question to ask before buying a business isn't about the business. I learned that from a couple in New Jersey. Mark and Jessica Weishnick honeymooned in the Virgin Islands and never really left, at least not mentally. They went back to their jobs in New Jersey. Mark was an attorney, Jessica was a manager in a chemical factory. But they kept coming back to this same dream. What if they could find a way to live there full time? So after the stress and churn of the 2008 recession, Mark got motivated to find out what it would take. Now, their primary goal wasn't growth potential. It was finding a sustainable, enjoyable way to make the Caribbean their permanent home. 3 years later, they were still working their corporate jobs. They hadn't lost their fire, they'd just taken their time. It took a couple years to settle on the right model. They landed on a bed and breakfast. They felt like it was the best fit for something that could support life on the islands while also being work they'd actually enjoyed doing. And then it took 2 more years to find the right property. They needed living space for themselves, a place that was small enough to run without a large staff, sort of minimal construction required, and a seller that was going to be willing to do some owner financing. What they eventually found was this historic property built in 1803 of masonry and stone, unlike most of the newer buildings on the island. So this thing had survived more than 200 years of hurricanes. So they packed up New Jersey and moved to the Caribbean. Now, I've been doing this work for more than 20 years, and I've talked to thousands of people who wanted to own a business. And for most of that time, I assumed the most important question to ask about any opportunity was, how good is the business? Meaning, how fast can this thing grow, and what do the finances look like? The Weishnicks and other clients like them changed that for me. I now believe the right question to start with is, what do you want your life to look like? And the follow on from that, what kind of business can get you there? That question matters whether you want a lifestyle business like the Weishnicks built or a more traditional business that grows and eventually gives you more freedom and more options. Because here's what I've seen happen when people skip it. They find a business, buy it or build it in pursuit of freedom, achieve some financial success, and somewhere along the way realize they've created a prison of their own making, one where they're burning out, don't enjoy the work, and can't see a way out. A business can succeed and still create a life you don't want. Starting with the life you want isn't soft thinking. It's the most practical thing you can do because it's going to tell you what kind of business to look for, what constraints to build in from the beginning, and what to say no to along the way. And I've had to learn that last part myself. At 48, I know what I want my life to look like. My kids are still at home. In a few years, they won't be. And I'm not willing to spend the time I have left with them working 80-hour weeks or putting out fires on evenings and weekends. That means my current work efforts have a time budget. My wife and I also have a plan for what comes after. Once the kids leave college, we want to spend our winters in Mexico. It is our happy place. But that means the businesses I'm involved in need to work without me being tied to a physical location. That clarity has cost me something. In the last couple of years, I've said no to 2 deals that made really good financial sense, had exciting upside, but both would have required a level of time and operational intensity that doesn't fit the life I'm trying to live, either now or as we look forward into the future. Knowing what I wanted made those decisions easier. Not easy, but easier. So before you evaluate a single opportunity, I encourage you to sit with a few questions first. Where do you want to be? What kind of work do you want to be doing every day? What boundaries matter to you for protecting the way you want to spend your time? And what kind of financial outcomes do you actually need to finance the life that you want? For some people, that might mean pursuing something with aggressive growth potential. For others, the answer looks more like a client I talked with recently who bought a campground in Michigan right on the lake. The business generates enough income to support a good life, puts them on a property they love, gives them almost 7 months a year off, and is building this long-term asset as they pay down the debt on the real estate. And for them, the business isn't the bridge to the life they want. It is the life they want. And they only got there by getting clear on what they wanted most. Then they found the business model and a business that fit. Don't quit your daydream all, but also do the work to make it specific enough that you know what you're actually building toward. See you next week. Cheers.